I still remember the sound of the gavel, one swift crack. In that moment, my family split into fractions. My father walked out of the courtroom with my brother, Benjamin. My mother clutched my sister's small hand and vanished into the crowd. And me. I was the forgotten one, the child no one wanted. The state took me in, dressed me in worn-out clothes, and taught me to eat fast before the food was gone. Nights were the hardest, lying awake in a bed that smelled of strangers, staring at a ceiling that belonged to nobody. I used to wonder why neither of them fought for me. But the answer came years later, loud and clear. They saw no value in me, not back then. Years passed. I grew taller, sharper. I wasn't the broken kid they cast aside, but something colder. Quieter weapon forged in solitude. Then one day, they all came knocking. My father, his hair streaked with gray, offered a forced smile. My mother's eyes were wet with rehearsed sorrow. My siblings, now adults, hovered behind them like ghosts. They wanted to be a family again, as if family was something you could resurrect with mere apologies and old photos. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just smiled, because I had been waiting for this moment my entire life. My father was the first to invite me to dinner. He ordered the most expensive wine. Boasting about the company he had built with my brother, Benjamin, he spoke as if nothing had happened, as if I had been on some long vacation instead of languishing in state care. But I wasn't listening to his words. I was observing him, his weaknesses, the tremor in his left hand as he reached for his glass, the way he checked his phone between sentences, desperate for approval. A week later, I visited his office. I left behind a flash drive, something he assumed was a gift. A collection of old childhood photos. He didn't know it held something else. A tracking program pulling financial data. Client lists and secrets he thought were buried. By the time I was finished, his empire was slowly and quietly bleeding out. Contracts were voided. Clients were leaving one by one. No one suspected me. I made sure of that. My mother was next. She played the part of the victim perfectly, wringing her hands, speaking of sleepless nights, whispering how she regretted leaving me behind. But remorse is cheap when it's just talk. So I tested her. I let her believe I needed her, asking for small favors, financial help, and introductions. She offered them enthusiastically, proud of her chance at redemption. What she didn't realize was that every account number, every signature, every careless document she handed me was fuel. When the audits came, when the hidden debts beneath layers of charity and fraud surfaced, she broke down. She looked at me, desperate and pleading. I simply tilted my head. Now you know what it feels like to be abandoned. My siblings, however, were different. They hadn't chosen. They had been taken away. Yet they had grown up with a roof over their heads while I slept in a different bed every few weeks. They ate home-cooked meals while I learned the metallic taste of cafeteria food. When they came to me, it wasn't with arrogance. It was with curiosity. A brother and sister wanting to know the ghost of the sibling they had lost. And so I gave them a choice. Stay in my life, stripped of all illusions, or walk away before I dismantled the perfect image they had of our parents. They chose to stay. The climax arrived on a rain-soaked night, years in the making. I invited them all to my residence. Neutral ground, the table was set, the wine was poured, the silence was suffocating. My father sat stiffly, his jaw tight. He had lost his company, his reputation shredded by whispers he couldn't trace. My mother looked pale and shaken, her assets frozen, her name entangled in investigations. My siblings were caught between the destruction and me. I looked at them one by one. Do you know what it feels like? I said, my voice calm. To watch your family walk away, each taking a piece of you and leaving nothing behind. No one responded. They couldn't. I leaned back, savoring their silence. You wanted me back, but the child you abandoned no longer exists. My father's hands clenched into fists. My mother's lips trembled. My siblings lowered their eyes, finally realizing the truth. This wasn't a family reunion. It was a day of reckoning. When they departed that night, none of them spoke. The storm outside swallowed their footsteps. I stood alone in the silent house, the weight of years finally lifting. Revenge hadn't healed me, but it had balanced the scales. I wasn't the broken child they had discarded. I was the judge, the executioner, and the survivor. And as I closed the door behind me, one truth burned steady in my heart. They taught me abandonment. I taught them consequences. Imagine yourself in this story. What would you do? Share your answer in the comments.